Okay, I'm going to have a look at how to draw a box and whisker plot. Now, when we do a box and whisker plot, we do have to do a few things first before we can start drawing it. So one of them is putting our numbers in order from smallest to biggest, which I've already done here. And the second thing is working out the 5-number summary. So in this case, we want to first find our median. So we're going to count into the middle. And we get 2 numbers there, 16 and 17. Now halfway between those is going to be 16.5. If you weren't sure what halfway between was, add them together and divide by 2. We also need our minimum, which is 10, our maximum, which is 25. We then need our Q1 and Q3. So to get Q1, that's the first quartile, we're going to look at the bottom half of the data. So we're going to split that data in half, and then we're going to count into the middle. Now in this case we get 13 and 13, so our Q1 is going to be 13. Here we've got 18 and 19, so halfway between 18 and 19 is going to be 18.5. Now that we've got our 5-number summary, we can then draw our box and whisker plot. So we need to draw a number line, and we need our numbers to be between 10 and 25. So I'm going to pop that on here. I put an arrow on each end to show that it goes further. And then I might start at 8 and go up in 2s. Depending what numbers you've got and depending what spacing you've got will determine what you put along your number line. I just know I have to have the numbers between 10 and 25, and I had 10 little increments there. So the first dot I want to put on my number line is going to be the 10. So I'm going to put a dot above the 10 for my minimum. I'm then going to put a dot for 13, so I know that comes between the 12 and the 14 there. I then have a dot for 16.5. I have a dot for 18.5, and I have a dot for 25. So I then am going to connect my first 2 dots and my last 2 dots. They're what we call the whisker in our box and whisker plot. I'm then going to draw a box around the remaining dots in the middle. So this box here shows my middle 50% of the data, and then I put a line here that shows where my median is. So if I was looking at what percentage I had, I would say there's 25% here, 25 in that first box, 25% here, and 25% there. So that's how my data is divided up. Now, having this whisker here makes me wonder if I have an outlier. Now, an outlier, and I'll write the word here, an outlier is a number that's significantly higher or lower than the rest. So having a long whisker can sometimes indicate that we have an outlier. The way that we will check for that is by using our interquartile range and adding or subtracting that from the Q1 and Q3. So first I need to find out my interquartile range, and that's when I do Q3 take Q1. So when I do Q3 take Q1, I have 18.5, and I'm taking away 13. So I get 5.5. Now the rule for our outliers is 1.5 times that number added or subtracted to Q1 or Q3. So I'm going to do 1.5 times my IQR, which will be 1.5 times 5.5. So I'm going to grab my calculator and do that. 1.5 times 5.5, and I get 8.25. I'm now going to get my Q1, and I'm going to take that number away from it. So my Q1 was 13, and I'm going to take 8.25 from that. And I get 4.75. Now I look at my list and I have a look if there's any numbers that are smaller than 4.75. And no, I don't have any smaller than 4.75. So then I check the other side. So that's my lower fence, and then I'll check my upper fence is when I do Q3 plus that 8.25. So that's where I'll do my Q3, which is 18.5. I'm going to add my 8.25 to it. and I get 26.75. So I look for any numbers that are bigger than 26.75. My biggest number is 25, so it's not an outlier because it's not bigger than 26.75. So my box and whisker plot stays as it is. If it had been an outlier, I would have put a cross for that and then taken my whisker to the next number down, which would have been 20. In this case, I didn't have any outliers, so my box and whisker plot stays as it is. Hopefully that helps you with how to draw your box and whisker plots.